Welcome. My name is Rob Amos, and I work for Alcofor Beach Limited. We're a consulting engineering firm retained by the City of Mississauga to perform the Loyalist Creek erosion control extending behind Thorn Lodge Drive and class environmental assessment. This is a virtual public information center intended to present the information to the public and key stakeholders, after which we will look forward to receiving any comments or input that you may have with regards to the presentation materials from today. The purpose of the study is to define the preferred restoration opportunity to address erosion and deteriorated erosion control measures along Loyalist Creek. This will improve the stability and the health of the watercourse, mitigate risks to the adjacent private properties, as well as city's infrastructure, and enhance the overall aesthetic of the creek corridor. The purpose of this virtual PIC is to present the information on the existing conditions that we've defined to date, as well as present alternative options and the study process and timelines. We'll look to gain community input on the existing conditions to identify any opportunities and constraints, as well as look for input with regards to the evaluation criteria that has been applied to the different alternatives considered. After which, with your input, we will look to select the preferred solution to restore the creek. Following the municipal class environmental assessment process, this study will follow the Schedule B classification. That includes two phases of study. Phase 1 being to identify the problems which have since been completed, and phase 2 is to look at alternative solutions to address those problems. At the present moment, we have identified the problem, provided our first point of public consultation to complete phase 1, and with an understanding of those problems, we've identified alternative solutions. We've inventoried the natural, social, and economic environments relevant to the study area. We've looked at environmental impacts, mitigation measures, and defined what alternatives may be applied to address those problems. As part of this virtual PIC, we are reviewing our findings to date with the public, after which we will then be able to define the preferred alternative. The study will then be posted with a notice of completion to agency and the public, and then implementation will occur thereafter. The study area figure presents the extents in which Loyalist Creek and the adjacent corridor are being investigated. The upstream limit on the left of the study area figure is the Thorn Lodge Drive crossing upstream. The creek setting then extends primarily through the city-owned corridor, which includes a multi-use trail network, and extends downstream, once again crossing Thorn Lodge Drive to the right, and has extended downstream of Thorn Lodge, in which we've further divided the study area into a series of reaches, referred to as Reach 1 upstream, Reach 2 in the middle, and Reach 3 downstream. Some photos have been included to help define what the existing conditions of the watercourse are. Photo A presents the upstream limit of the study area, where the watercourse extends downstream of Thorn Lodge Drive, coming through a box culvert. Photo B presents that multi-use trail, which has been newly paved and extends along the outer edge of the city corridor. Photos C, D, and E present the variety of conditions throughout this reach, Reach 1, the upstream reach, primarily lined with armor stone or large blocks of stone which have been quarried from the natural environment, used as erosion control to prevent the creek from migrating or erosion. This slide presents the existing conditions observed within Reach 2. Photo F presents a change in trail setting, going from asphalt to more of a wood chip surface. And then photos H through I and J illustrate a different type of erosion control measure, referred to as gabion baskets. We see in photos H and J in particular, as well as J, that the gabion baskets have completely failed and are starting to fall into the creek and may potentially obstruct the flow and leave the private properties or the properties behind the gabion baskets subject to increased rates of erosion. Reach number 3, downstream of Thorn Lodge, illustrates the water course, particularly with regards to photo N, a large mass of material which has deposited. This mass of material has washed downstream from those failing gabion baskets which were observed within Reach 2. As part of defining the existing environmental conditions, the terrestrial ecology of the study area was identified. We see that an ecological land classification was applied, which is a standard practice used to describe, identify, and map vegetation communities on the landscape. Communities observed included hawthorn shrub thicket, dry, fresh, deciduous woodland, dry, fresh, black walnut and deciduous woodlands, and Norway maple deciduous forests. Additionally, the existing aquatic ecology was investigated. At present, fish were not observed to be found within the study area. Although there are no major fish barriers within the site in particular, there are fish barriers known downstream, preventing opportunities for migratory fish to enter into the study area. The habitat within the study area is generally in poor condition, largely due to the historic engineering practices of the gabion baskets and armorstone bank linings. Aquatic habitat may potentially support local communities or vagrant species. However, it may be improved through the restoration and defined as defined within this EA. The hydrology and the hydraulics of the study area were also investigated. Presented within the figure are the extents of the regulatory floodplain. We see that their regulatory floodplain limits are generally confined to the Loyalist Creek corridor. However, there are noticeable exceptions, with 8 private properties within the floodplain, highlighted with the red boxes. The regulatory flow extending through the study area would be over 67 cubic meters per second of water. An archaeological assessment was also undertaken to determine the potential for the presence of archaeological and cultural resources to exist within the study area. As defined within the green polygons over the study area, there is archaeological potential that has been recommended for further investigation, defined as a stage 2 archaeological assessment. These recommendations will be carried forward through the environmental assessment to be undertaken at the next stage of detailed design. It is also noted that the existing creek alignment extends primarily through City of Mississauga-owned lands. However, there are 2 properties on Thorn Lodge Drive where the water course extends through the private properties. To undertake any works on private property, the city would need to gain an easement or a permission to enter. In order to define the preferred alternative of through an EA process, there are there are a range of different criteria that are applied. These criteria include physical and natural conditions, social and cultural criteria, technical and engineering criteria, as well as economic criteria. Each of these 4 groups of criteria are then applied to the alternatives that are considered for each one of the reaches. For each reach, a series of alternatives include the do nothing option, doing spot repair or local restoration, the third alternative being an engineered channel restoration approach, generally not moving the channel from the existing planform arrangement, or natural channel restoration, which involves restoring the channel to a condition of what it would have been prior to the existing.
The do-nothing alternative involves no restoration measures being undertaken, with the exception of emergency basis. The existing gabion basket and armor stone erosion control measures will remain in place and continue to deteriorate. Scoring for this alternative is provided within the table to the right.
Local restoration was also given consideration for reaches 1, 2, and 3. What local restoration would involve are addressing the site-specific issues without major impact to the overall condition of the watercourse. A score of 6.8 was applied to reach 1, a score of 4.8 applied to reach 2, and 6.8 applied to reach 3 for local restoration. Engineered channel restoration would involve removing the existing armor stone and gabion baskets and rebuilding it within the present alignment. Scores of 5.9, 6.1, and 5.7 to reaches 1, 2, and 3 were defined for engineered channel restoration. And lastly, the natural channel restoration was applied. Reaches 1, 2, and 3 were scored at 6.6, 6.1, and 6.2. Taking the highest score for each of the reaches, we're able to define what the preliminary preferred approach may be to move forward with recommendations for the EA. The highest score for reach 1 was the local restoration score. That would mean that stream restoration works occur at strategic and priority locations. At reach number 2, natural channel restoration received the highest score. That would involve continuous restoration of the entire reach. And reach 3, the highest score received was the local restoration score. In terms of next steps moving forward through the EA process, we are presently undertaking the Phase 2 public consultation. Comment forms are available through the city's website, and we will look forward to receiving those comments over the next 4 weeks. All comments will be compiled, reviewed, and the preliminary preferred alternative will be adapted to ensure that each comment can be incorporated, given consideration, and addressed. Upon completion of the public consultation process, the EA project file report will be posted for a 30-day review period, at which point key stakeholders and public, such as yourself, will be allowed a 30-day review period to provide comment with regards to the project file report. With completion of the project file in the EA, the study will move into detailed design, followed by implementation, which will be construction of the preferred alternative. Thank you very much for participating in the Loyalist Creek Erosion Control EA. My name is Robert Amos, and I look forward to receiving any comments that you may have on the information presented, as will Greg Frew, the City of Mississauga Project Manager.